Yet.
You're gonna completely scare Corey off before the show has even started.
That's okay. That was my whole objective.
Thanks, Kitty.
You're welcome. Okay, what do we got here? We're trying to be live. We are live. Guys, what is up? It is Friday. First Friday of June. Man, May went by really fast.
Yeah, it did.
Really fast. Graduation parties are done. That was a crazy week there. Week/2 weeks. Have you been in the pool yet?
Oh, not yet. I wish.
Yeah, me too. It's getting ridiculous.
I would love to be
What did I work so hard for the last 2 years for? Now, be honest. To be honest, for me, there are whoever you are. Hey, before I get too far into this, into my own funny stories, I see a couple people on here. Welcome to the show. We'll get through some introductions here in a moment. Please say hello so that we can say hello back and interact with you here shortly. All right, back onto summer, the most important part. Okay, so on summer.
Happy freaking birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Casey.
What am I thinking of? Yeah, your birthday, whatever. Oh, summertime. I have a summer kit in my car. It's a backpack, has 2 bathing suits in there, a towel, shades, everything needed for an impromptu swim invite. What is up, Alex? What's up? So you have to have that at all times because you never know when an impromptu party is going to come. So I'm ready. And I've been ready for basically the whole year because I've had it in there almost the entire year. And ready for these moments. And here we are. No pool time yet because it's still stinking cold. And I'm just not with that right now.
Yeah, my son has gone in the pool plenty of times now.
Yeah, because he's
just
crazy.
fearless. Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
Man,
He's all about it.
The first day that little Shane got out of school, I told him, I was like, I don't even care if this pool is 20 degrees. It's like, we're going into the pool. We
And
went
you
into the
did.
pool
Yeah.
That night. And then
Yeah.
we went to the freaking gym after. I mean, like, come on.
You guys are smart. All right, guys. So welcome to Freestyle Friday here. We have, my name's Kadima, and we have a special guest with us here, licensed mental health specialist, Corey Fentress. We'll give her a round of applause here.
Thank you.
Guys, we brought her on the show here because we want to talk about mental health. We want to talk about the things that are difficult to discuss. We want to talk about and answer questions and from you guys, as well as some kind of questions that we prepared in advance that may help someone. So if this is a topic that you know someone is struggling in some area, maybe they're not talking about it, I encourage you right now to please share this across social media platforms. This will be uploaded on YouTube later on today, and maybe we can help someone. So, all right, without further ado, we're going to allow Corey Fentress to kind of talk about her background a little bit, and then we'll get into some questions and kind of rock and roll here. So the mic is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Kadima. So I am a licensed marriage and family therapist working for a group private practice called Connections Wellness Group. I am trained in EMDR, which I can explain more about later because it's kind of just complex to explain. But I specialize in working with ages 4 and up and treating trauma, depression, anxiety, grief and loss, and family system issues. I've been working for a licensed therapist for 4 years, and I'm experienced in providing individual, couples, family therapy, medication training and support, advocating for school support, as well as providing mental health services within the community.
Awesome. Also about Corey, she's actually, which is really cool, how networking and things work, but she's actually also a member of our gym. So she attends classes on a regular basis, and so kind of cool to see and get to see her side of things, because she sees us all the time, and kind of her own journey, from working out and stuff. So this is really cool. So I want to kind of get into some questions here. I know that this can kind of expand relatively quick, but I want to talk about like the idea and what you would say is the definition of mental health. Like, what is mental health?
So, mental health addresses cognitive, emotional, and behavioral issues that cause significant problems in everyday functioning.
Okay.
So, that basically just has to do with your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So, a variety of factors can contribute to mental health problems, including biological factors such as genetics or brain chemistry, life experiences such as trauma or abuse, or a family history of mental health problems.
Okay. And so would you say, like, when you described biological, would you say that is like some type of chemical imbalance? And that's where you would say, like, would bipolar count as that?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And oftentimes, bipolar is treated with medication management,
Okay. Okay.
which you seek that through psychiatry services.
Gotcha. So, and I would say like a trauma would be like maybe somebody died abruptly in their family, or maybe some type of physical abuse of some sort. Is there that, or like a catastrophic accident?
Any and all of the above. So trauma can vary, and what someone might not think is trauma could be trauma to someone else. And so EMDR, what I mentioned earlier, something that I got trained in, is actually the most effective model in treating trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
And that's also known as eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy. And it's
Okay.
kind of a mouthful.
I mean, I definitely want to hear more about that for sure. I want to kind of get into these a little bit more, and then we'll kind of go. Guys, again, if you have questions, please submit them below, as we'll try to attack many of them as possible. If it's something that you don't necessarily want to share on here, you could directly DM us, and we'll allow Corey to handle those questions from a professional standpoint at a later point.
Yeah.
So, so don't be, I'd say don't be afraid, but that's just probably not sensical. Any level that you're comfortable at sharing information or asking questions, please do so. All right, and we'll put her contact info, her professional contact info here in the comments of the video. That way, if you have questions, you can reach out to her as well. Okay. What have you seen from a mental health standpoint since the pandemic has begun, and kind of where is it now?
Well, there's definitely just an overall increase in general anxiety, especially social anxiety. Just with the pandemic, people have had to be social distancing and isolated. And so whenever that happens, you tend to see just an increase in anxiety as people aren't exposing themselves to those situations as much.
Okay.
So with anxiety, the goal is to increase your overall tolerance or ability to deal with those stressors by kind of pushing us outside of our comfort zone.
Like, and without going into client info, could you give us some examples of issues that you've seen kind of across the board or more frequently?
So there's been a pretty sharp increase in depression, thoughts of suicide, self-harm. Clients with obsessive compulsive disorder, I've seen a pretty big increase in like tics and compulsions. The school-aged kids are having a really difficult time staying on task with school. So you've seen a lot of missing assignments and their grades be affected by that, which in turn creates unhappy parents and kind of not the best family dynamic at all times.
Okay. I've heard some pretty crazy stories just on when they throw a statistic on the news, and let's say like domestic abuse has risen this much percent, or so on and so forth has risen this much percent since the pandemic began, because people are or around each other more often, and so it creates these situations because they're not able to separate, so to speak. And
yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, domestic violence, even just child abuse. I know particularly at Cook's Children's, they saw a huge spike in the amount of children admitted that was rooted back to abuse in the home.
Okay. So
just across the board, a lot of major mental health issues are affecting the families and the community.
Okay. Now, kind of to change or refocus us a little bit, when you look at, like, I think there's this big stigma, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but a big stigma against mental health or seeking counseling. Mm-hmm. How does someone know that they're unwell, or like, they need some help?
So, yes, there's unfortunately a big stigma against mental health, mm-hmm. and that does prevent a lot of people from seeking help. But the way that you know that someone's unwell is they typically show like signs of isolation. They tend to just feel like really irritable. They often have sleep disturbances. Sometimes they start to have like panic attacks or anxiety attacks. So I could go on about like I guess fatigue, low energy, like I said, thoughts of harm, self-harm and suicide, even feeling hopeless or helpless, using substances excessively to cope. That's another thing that we've seen.
Even like caffeine?
Yeah, probably. I mean, that is, that's technically, it can qualify as an addiction. Yeah. So, and what it all comes down to is like how it affects their ability to perform tasks and care for themselves and others. And so if there's like a significant impairment in functioning with that, then it's considered like a mental health problem.
Okay. So like, okay, I'm trying to think of this, like, there's probably some times where I'm like, I'm trying to think of one moment where you're upset or something's really bothering you and it puts you in a funk for that day. Do you separate that from a continual funk? So is it a consistent, I'm just calling it a funk for no other thing that I can think of as I don't feel like myself, and maybe for a couple of days I don't feel like myself. But if it starts to turn into a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks where I'm continuing to feel that way, is that at the point where we need to be more like, this is something you need to address?
Yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
thank you, because it has to really develop into a pattern to have that necessity to seek professional help, I think.
Because I think like there's a lot of times where I'm not necessarily in touch with my emotions very well. And like, all right, I'll give you an example of this. This is good. Many times, I don't know how many times, but let's just say every 4 to 6 months maybe, I don't know necessarily why for 2 or 3 days I'm just not myself. Casey will notice it because she's an empath. She feels everybody's emotions. And she'll say like, she'll say, hey, what's up? And I'll be like, nothing, everything's good. And she's like, I can feel something. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you're feeling because I'm not in touch with my emotions. So I have to go back and think and sit and ponder to figure out, why am I feeling this way? And then I can backtrack enough to go, oh, I know exactly why I'm feeling this way. Now everything's good. So it takes some self-evaluation and some analysis to really think and go, oh, this is why I was feeling bad. Or this is why, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe this is why you felt what you felt.
Yes.
Okay. So
and that's a part of emotional intelligence, like learning how to witness your emotions and kind of like stepping outside of yourself and not just giving into that reaction, which is extremely difficult to do.
I need some remedial classes on that, on emotional intelligence. I'm trying, people. Again, if you have questions, please DM us, or you can just put it right in the comments. All right. How does someone know if they're, for lack of a better term, unwell?
So basically, like I think I was kind of saying earlier, just early warning signs of a mental health problem just can include the increased need for sleep or sleep disturbances, the isolation, fatigue, low energy, disordered eating. I kind of think I don't want to repeat, but
sure. If they were doing this for like 2 weeks, would this is something that would start to be alarming to you? If it would it be like, if we were to put a time window on it, like for someone, like they're experiencing these symptoms for a couple weeks,
so usually it's period of about like 2 months if you're seeing it progress. 2 to 3 months, and then, like I said, if it's affecting your functioning or your relationships, then it can be qualified as an official mental health diagnosis according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, or the DSM.
Okay. Legit.
Official.
Yeah, she official.
He doesn't whistle.
What would you say? What would you tell people that they're supposed to do if they're having any of these issues?
Definitely encourage them to seek help from a mental health professional who can direct them to the appropriate treatment or level of care. And just try to keep in mind that every therapist is different, and so it's important to try and find someone who specializes in what you're needing help with and someone that you feel is a good fit for you.
Okay.
And if for whatever reason you schedule an appointment and it just doesn't feel right, like, don't be afraid to still keep looking for another therapist.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah, we'll share in the comments like my business card, and with Connections Wellness Group, they offer telemedicine, telehealth. They're also starting to do in-person sessions. Some of the therapists are.
Fantastic.
And psychiatry services. And so you can like go and look on all the different therapist profiles and read more about their background and see if they might be a good fit.
Okay.
And then just another good resource that people can use to look up therapists is Psychology Today, which is just psychologytoday.com. And you can filter out like what insurance you have to find a therapist that is in network with you. And again, kind of like break it down to different specialties for someone that is more knowledgeable to be able to help you.
Is that how you spell psychology?
Yes, perfect.
All right. I mean, I just want to kind of put that out there.
Yeah.
And then I'll put your... And what's your best professional info that I can pass on?
You can do Connections Wellness Group, all one word, .com.
Okay, cool. What would you like? What can people do as a preventative to keep some? I don't think you can't protect yourself against everything, right? Something traumatic happens, that's not necessarily preventative, but maybe like some of the daily stuff, what you're talking about in terms of maybe anxiety or certain things. How can like someone do something preventative to keep some of these things from arising?
So you can be intentional about engaging in healthy habits such as regular exercise, well-balanced diet, getting about 8 hours of sleep each night, which my favorite form of preventative thing to do is working out, of course, going to the gym, coming here. So benefits to working out include improved mood regulation, relief from anxiety and depression. It gives you an energy boost. It helps improve sleep, increases self-esteem through helping us get fitter, stronger, and making progress. Seeing that progress in the gym can really help us to feel proud and accomplished. And I know that's definitely the case with me. Just seeing like how much I've grown since I've started coming here. So it's improves long-term health as well, and just helps us live like happier lives overall.
Man, if I'm if I'm working out sometimes twice a day, it probably means I have a problem, but that's okay. We probably all have problems.
You can do anything in excess.
Exercise level is like are we like having a problem because we're working out too much.
Yeah. I got a good question here from Stephanie Coble.
Yeah, that's my friend. Hi,
What's up,
Steph.
Stephanie? As a friend of someone dealing with mental issues or struggles or isolation that isn't open to seeking help, what do you suggest would be good things to support their situation from a friend perspective?
That's
good
a
question.
Great question. I think that was our next question.
Yeah.
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 So she's like ahead
like
of the
you
game.
knew. It's like you
Yeah,
knew.
good job. So before we get to that, we'll answer that in just a second,
Okay.
Steph. But some of the other things that you can do as a preventative to keep these issues from coming up would be like prioritizing self-care, which has to do with some of the things we just talked about. Just like mental, emotional, physical, spiritual even. So practicing meditation or mindfulness regularly is one of my favorite ways. Not for everybody, but you find what works for you. Finding healthy emotional outlets or ways of releasing your emotions or learning to accept them, which can be through exercise, talking to friends and family, journaling, creating art, dancing, acting, and singing, which made me think of you since that's something you're kind of trying to get into.
Yep. I think it's cool.
Yeah, and singing is actually really cool as well as deep breathing because it helps.
Just said that she loves meditating.
Yeah, meditating is awesome. But it helps to engage the vagus nerve in the body, which is the largest nerve that runs from the back of our brainstem all the way down to our diaphragm. And so whenever we sing or practice deep breathing, it basically sends like a direct message to our brain, helping to calm our nervous system. So it's very effective.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
And then just surrounding yourself with healthy relationships where you feel appreciated, seen, heard, and validated. Checking in with your loved ones or friends to see how they are doing and if they are really okay or if they might need some extra support.
Yeah, I think this is one of the, when you just hit on that really hard. I think in Stetson and I have had actual conversations about this, about friends that we knew in high school that may have taken a different path. And all I can think of is, would it have made a difference? I believe that it would have if we didn't take, the great thing about social media is how connected we can be. But also, I believe on the other side of it, that other coin is we're less connected as well. Because we take for granted that, oh, they're posting pictures about their kids. Oh, they're posting pictures about this. Oh, they're donuts or whatever. And you kind of like don't really check them out because you just see, oh, okay, they look fine.
Yeah.
But they're just posting a highlight of their day, not truly the other bad things. And so even if you send a message saying, hey, man, are you okay? Or, hey, girl, haven't seen you in a while, whatever that is, I think the only way that truly gets a connection is through a phone call or an actual meeting in person where you can actually happen.
Yeah, I very much agree with that because in person you can pick up more of their energy, and that's really difficult to do over the phone or through text.
And then I think Stephanie's question was, how do we support someone who's on
So if someone is in like denial of their mental health issues, which unfortunately we see a lot, and they're just not having the insight as to how it could benefit them, try your best to motivate and encourage them to seek help, while reassuring them that it's okay not to be okay and they are not a burden. But don't push them or criticize them if they are hesitant or just not ready to ask for help, because if you do that, typically they'll just pull away. So try to meet them where they are at and better understand how to help them, just depending on like what stage of change they're at.
Okay.
And then also just normalize seeking help by using or offering your own personal examples can be helpful.
Testimonial.
Yeah, of a time like when you had to ask for help, and you're modeling the benefits of that. So it can be really powerful in helping to encourage them.
Okay. If they do have some strong mental health issues and they're not wanting to help themselves, what can be done?
That's it's a difficult question. It depends on like what their circumstances are. So if they're a risk of harm to themselves or others, then they can be admitted inpatient against their will.
Okay.
Which you try to avoid doing, but sometimes it just has to happen. And then in other cases, if there's legal issues, then you can work with a lawyer and a judge to try and get like court mandated treatment.
Okay. Wow. Dang, that's hardcore. Because social media is vapid and vague.
Yes,
Need a real connection.
I like that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go, Stat. Pretty good stuff that you're throwing down, bud. Pretty good stuff you're throwing down there. What else about mental health did I want to know, or something? What did we not cover? Is there anything that we not cover that we could cover about mental health, or?
Yeah, just maybe talking a little bit more about the stigma and like why is there stigma.
Okay.
So sometimes people misinterpret mental health issues as a sign of weakness, or it can be shame-inducing and bring up a lot of feelings of shame. So individuals could also fear getting labeled crazy and how it might affect their status or reputation. But when in reality, mental health issues are experienced by nearly 1 out of every 5 individuals in the United States alone. And that's very likely underreported, just because of the stigma itself and people not feeling comfortable and talking about it.
Stetson makes up a good point. Athletes, when we're done playing, we both played college football, and I can remember distinctively being in a depression for must have been 6 to 9 months when I was about 25 years old. I hated anything and everything that had to do with football. I couldn't stand it. Couldn't watch it on TV. Could not do it. I spent so much time playing and pursuing it. And when I realized that it was more about who I thought my identity was and more so than my love of the game, it really hurt me. And it also hurt me to see other people succeeding, which sounds so mean because I can't see myself doing that, but other people succeeding when I know they're not as good. And so it was extra frustrating for me there. And what's interesting is I think I've seen mental health kind of be different per the community or culturally. So I would say like in the Black community, okay, many times it is looked at as weakness, and their answer for going to get therapy, if you're a man, is going to the barbershop and telling all the barbers and the other people in there your problems and them giving you advice on whatever that's supposed to be, right? Mm-hmm. And I think different communities communities and cultures handle it differently. And so you have this kind of different stigmas in different communities that are there. What's interesting though is I've seen a lot of churches that are kind of going through this dynamic of where they're paying their staff, or part of their benefits as a staff is they get to go to 2 counseling sessions that are free of charge so they could get mental health even if they don't think they need it. Because sometimes, many times, and I've been through this, so like going through some relational changes in my life, I went through I sought counseling, and now I'm like at this point now where my life is in transition. I'm like, I should probably see a counselor and just talk through some of these things, because now I feel like it's normal. Like I feel like it's a normal thing to have, almost like a doctor's checkup. I'm getting my mental health checkup, like,
Exactly.
are my thoughts correct about this? It's probably time for me to take another checkup, so to speak.
Do you have to seek a professional in a sense?
Who do you want? Some guy who's just who's working at Target on the weekend? He's like, I do this in my spare
I'm saying,
time.
like, in the sense of, if you were like not comfortable in reaching out like to someone that's unknown, you'd rather talk to someone like that you do know.
You should
like a
definitely
friend.
reach out to a professional.
I mean, yeah, that's
That's still,
super
like, a
important.
solution?
It's not going to be the
That's
same.
solution.
Yeah. So you're just going to get a different interaction with a therapist compared to with your friend. And your friend's going to be a little bit more biased towards you and doesn't necessarily have the education or the training or experience
That makes sense.
to kind of help address some of those issues. But I think that is very essential, just to have that support system in place, and that is definitely a huge preventative measure in mental health struggles.
So would you say basically that's kind of like better than nothing, better than just holding it in? Would you say that, Corey? Like,
Yeah.
like they're not ready to go to somebody professionally, however, but they can talk to their friend about some of these things. That's better than them not doing anything and holding it in.
Yes.
Okay.
For sure. So ways that you can actually help end the mental health stigma is by knowing that you cannot always see someone's struggles. A lot of people are experts at hiding it. So that's where it's worth making that like in-person check-in to kind of pick up on their energy and diving a little bit deeper. Also discussing your struggles with others, being open about that, which, like you were saying, you don't see on Facebook. People show like the best parts of their lives, and it's not realistic. So asking for support when it's needed, becoming aware of your own attitudes towards mental health, normalizing going to therapy for getting help, helping to raise mental health awareness, being careful with judgments, and educating yourself on mental health.
Stephanie added another really good point. She says, I think getting emotional feelings out sometimes is important too. Some people don't realize an emotional dump is needed to be aware and to be on track to heal.
Yes. Sometimes that's an entire session. The client will just talk the whole time, and then they're just like, thank you. I feel so much better. I'm like,
And I have a support group. I think we all should have a support group of people that you can kind of dump on. And sometimes I dump certain things on certain people and dump certain things on other people that I feel more comfortable that I can dump that onto, right? Or I can just say, I feel like I can say the most crazy thought that I had and be like, and just wait. Like, what are you gonna say? And feel comfortable in that thought or that thing that I could say, you know. And so it's venting is bad. Unloading process is different than dumping.
Well, you got to be careful. He's right with venting, that
okay.
you're not like gossiping about other people, which is bad and just increases the anxiety overall. So, yeah, he's spot on.
Oh, so
But,
what,
I mean,
so that's
if-
different. What? I'm confused now. Okay, explain this. Venting, dumping.
I guess
feel like they're the
venting is
same
more
thing.
I
like
didn't even know dumping was a word.
negatively saturated, like talking negatively about other people to where it could affect how other people are viewing them, which is unfair because you're only getting one perspective.
Gotcha. I was only thinking about it in terms of my own
Yeah.
situation and not necessarily about someone else. More so like I am, in my words, venting to this person about these specific areas of my life because I value their knowledge and I feel like they're doing well in their life in those areas. And then I'll vent to someone else about this area of their about this particular area of my life to this person because I feel confident in what they have to say or how they can recenter me. And if they know me well enough, they can kind of recenter me and focus on what they know my deepest desires are. I think that's kind of what I'm thinking. I should have explained that a lot better. I don't know if that's bad or good though. Is that good? Is that bad?
I mean, it depends. It can,
Uh-oh.
I think these can be hard questions to answer, but I think as long as like you are having good intentions and you're giving someone like that safe space, or you're finding someone that you trust and you trust that in their confidence, I guess, and know that they're just there to listen and not necessarily try to fix your problems.
Gotcha.
If the point is just to kind of unload.
Okay. Gotcha. What is he saying here? It's building a positive feedback loop instead of a negative. You are processing what happened to build something positive versus complaining in a negative spiral. Okay. Okay. Interesting. So, guys, I put in the comments here Corey Fentress's professional contact information. Here, I believe it's Connections Wellness Group.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you can hit her up there. And obviously, she would love to help and assist anybody. If you do have additional questions, yes, ma'am.
How do you approach someone that you know needs help with something, but they don't see that in themselves?
Okay.
So you just try and gently approach it by pointing out the things that you've noticed that you're
Like an
concerned
addiction.
about. Yeah, and just kind of trying to help remind them of a time when you saw them maybe at their doing better or at their best, when they weren't using or having struggles, and just trying to connect with them without making them feel bad or ashamed for having a problem.
Okay. Any more questions over there on the grams?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So far.
Well, guys, we want to thank. How do you approach someone? Finish differently than I thought it was going. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, first off, I want to thank Corey for joining us today. Thank you so much because I learned a lot today about what's appropriate and not appropriate. It looks like I need some help. And so I want to thank you personally. Casey and I want to thank you for joining us and being willing to come on here with us. And probably I would love to do this kind of more so because we always talk about this as an area like that increases and improves your life. And I think it would be great to have you on a semi-regular basis if you're up for that. So at some point, I'm just gonna let you host it and then bring on your.
Yeah,
but
no, I love that.
awesome. But seriously, want to thank you for joining us. And then, guys, so if this helped you in any way, please, if you know someone who is struggling with mental health or like anybody you think can help benefit, I think this can benefit any person because there are times it could be just one day, it could be a week where you're having some issues or things. And so I just want you to please share this information. It'll also be on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/DTSOF. It'll be on our Instagram live page as well, _DTSOF_. And other than that, I am Kadima, and this is my co-host today,
Corey.
And we want to thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you next week with another fantastic show. Other than that, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the time. Hopefully it's a little more sunny, a little more hot. And if you don't want it to be hot, too bad. You're in the wrong state.
Yeah.
And we'll see you again. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. And we are supposed to be not live, but we're probably still live. And I'm hungry, but